Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Uh, I'm Jackson, as you probably know, and I'm on today with Kyle Curtis from the Non Sequitur Show. So this should be fun. I think we're going to talk about his experiences and all kinds of good stuff.
Oh, you see, Matt,
So
you just set
welcome.
me up for failure there. Telling
Oh,
people
did
that this should be fun. Now I feel this pressure. I have to perform or something. It has to be fun now.
I mean, if you need a pill to enhance, performance or something.
Oh no, I'm good there.
Okay.
No issues there.
I know sometimes it's a little hard for some to
For some, yes,
perform,
not for
but,
this one.
no. I mean, your show is great. There's always, performance of some kind, and it's amazing for it.
Great's one way to put it.
I mean, you guys have gotten, super popular in a relatively short amount of time.
About a year and a month now. A year and a month.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and you've hosted some very prolific discussions.
Yeah, it feels a lot longer than that though. The year and a month, it seems like it's been a lot longer. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, it's only been a year. I don't think I could survive like 3 years of this. I really don't. I'll be like YouTube rehab.
Yeah. So how exactly did the Non Sequitur Show get started in the first place?
Pandora, who held the. No, I'm just kidding. But I was watching. I used to be like I still am, but I watched Christopher Hitchens like religiously. I would watch his debates, and I just thought he was, he was a master of the English language, and the way that he just spoke, it was unbelievable. And so I really got into his debates. And one day I was painting actually, and I just left YouTube playing. Like it'll auto play into different videos, and it auto played after a while from a Christopher Hitchens debate into a G-Man versus Red's Rhetoric debate, and it made
Lord.
yeah. I assume you're familiar with G-Man.
Yeah, I've never had the pleasure of interacting with him myself, but I've seen a few of his meltdowns on camera.
You haven't lived until you. But so I remember I was painting and I just stopped because it went about as well as you could imagine. Reds is too. Reds kind of beat his ass, and G-Man was just like spurging out, and it made me stop. And I was like, "What is this? Like this?" if you're going from if you're going from Christopher Hitchens, who is this classy master orator, he's just it's just night and day, And I remember going, what is this? Like, what have I found? And I didn't know that this entire community of like your day-to-day average people existed, where people could, people were having these debates on things. And I started like getting into those. I started watching those. I watched Red's debates. Steve had a couple on his channel, and I began to follow like 4 people really closely in this great debate community, this localized version of it. And I had an idea what I wanted to do. I was so fascinated by people like G-Man, and I was so fascinated by Reds and Brett Keane, because yes, I found Brett Keane that way too. And so I was like, you know what? These people are so interesting. You're going to have to give me a pass, because I didn't know at the time everything that was involved in Brett Keane. I'm just seeing a couple of videos. Oh, well, good.
I'm still very much in the dark about a lot of the drama that has spiraled over the years.
Long story short, he was an atheist. He was the first YouTube atheist, like the first big YouTube atheist. Like he had a huge following. He then, people say, turned to Christianity for the money, because more Christians were giving him money. And so he became a theist for the money, and essentially screwed over everybody that he came in contact with from that point on. He's just a just a really he's just not a good person.
Hmm.
And I didn't know this at the time, but I was like, you know what I'm gonna do like VH1 did with Behind the Music. You know how they have those like little documentaries where they go and talk to the band and like what made you want to do music, and you know, why'd you do this, tell us some of your stories. And I picked those four. I was going to interview Steve, I was going to interview G-Man, Reds, and Brett King. And so I contacted all four of them just out of the blue, and I said, you know, this is what I'm thinking about doing, are you interested? And all of them said yeah. G-Man was the first person that I interviewed, and we actually had a really good conversation. He was not anything like you see on YouTube. A very nice guy. We talked for about 3 hours. I got his story, and I felt like I walked away understanding him a little bit better. Talked to Steve. You know, Steve was great. We had a really good conversation. Same with Reds. And then the last person I talked to was Brett Keane. And Brett Keane, we had a 2.5 hour conversation, and I got through half of the questions that I had intended on asking him. And we had a good conversation. It was a great back and forth. I really enjoyed it. And so I sent him a message after the interview that night, and I said, you know, I'm just finding out about this other side of or these people that are accusing you of things. I'd like to get with you again and kind of ask you about some of these because I feel it's important to you know, make sure that's included. And the next morning I woke up and I had a page-long message from him saying that I was just interested in drama. I was trying to screw him over. I was trying to expose him. And during that conversation, we had a conversation about why I left faith, because he asked me, why did you leave the Christian faith? And I told him, you know, about me being gay and this stuff. So at the bottom of this message, he had linked, he has a blog that he writes these dumb articles on, and he had a link to that, to his blog on there. So I clicked it, and it was this article about how homosexuals were essentially pedophiles, people who
of course
practiced in bestiality.
Right.
So he was trying to embarrass me or whatever, which, by the way, for those of you who are wondering why I invited him on a month ago, only to kick him off, that article is why. I waited a year to get my revenge. And he forgot about me in that year. Like, he forgot about our interaction, had no clue we'd even met before. Wow. So I had these 4 interviews. I'm sorry, I'm talking way too much. We had these 4 interviews. That's essentially
to talk.
And I was thinking, I was like, you know what? There's more to this, because these are only 4 people out of the hundreds that are involved in this online debate. Every video I watched, I would learn of somebody new. You know, somebody would reference somebody else, and then I have to go to their channel and watch them. And I couldn't just. I was like, they're all fascinating people. It was amazing. Like, just looking back, if you watch G-Man's debates from when he first came on YouTube and to where he is now, you see this progression of an individual. That G-Man, I mean, it is fascinating, because in the beginning, he was literally really about the Bible. Like, that was his purpose for being on here. He wanted to honestly and truly save people. But as his G-Man character started to get a notorious reputation or whatever, you can see a progression of the Jesus aspect of G-Man's channel start to lower, and the G-Man aspect of it start to rise.
Yeah.
And you just see this arc coming up where God's not as important as he was in the beginning. And so these are the kind of things that I wanted to kind of go into. And so,
Kyle, I can't hear you. Kyle, I can't hear you all of a sudden. Kyle, I can't hear you. Kyle. Kyle, I can't hear you. Can anyone hear Kyle out there? Is it just me? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Whoops. Oh, we lost him for a second. In the meantime, I'll distract everyone with my cat juggling skills.
What about now?
I need to find another cat.
Is that better?
Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you now. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
It's this. I've got a new mic coming Thursday. For some reason, they think that this one's like shorting out or whatever, but it'll do that intermittently. I have no clue when it's coming, but it'll just wipe out on me.
The last thing we heard was you said, the arc about G-Man, and his character went up and God went down.
Yeah. And I wanted to kind of explore that a little bit. So I messaged Steve and I said, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? And he said, yeah, let's do it. Our plan was once a week, we were going to talk to people and, find out about them and their stories. And it was going to be a podcast. I did not want to go on YouTube in the beginning. I didn't want the kind of like the exposure that comes with it, because I watched all of these people and what happened to them as YouTube kind of crept into their life. And I was like, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to be a YouTube personality. I have no interest in fame or, some kind of glory or anything like that. So we're going to record these podcasts. We're going to put them on iTunes and Spotify. And we did decide that we were going to put them on YouTube just with the audio, though. Like, you'd have a picture up on the screen and the audio would play, but no like video or special production or anything like that. And Aaron Ra, who is he's
never heard of him. Sorry.
Yeah. Which, by the way, he will be back tonight. He's coming back to the show tonight. But he was instrumental in my deconversion. I was at a youth church service on a Sunday night as a young earth creationist, as a Bible thumping kind of Christian, and a friend of mine that was there was laughing at this video, saying, these people are so stupid. And what they were watching was Arn on the Atheist Experience. And yeah. And I walked over there and I was watching the video and they were talking about slavery in the Bible. And I remember thinking, slavery's not in the Bible. That's not at all what the Bible says. And it just really, like, Arn's voice in my head was when he was going off on this guy about slavery in the Bible. I was like, that's just not true. So I went home, looked it up. It was true. It was there in black and white. And so for the next 2 weeks, I binged Aaron Ron and Matt Dillahunty videos. And by the end of it, I was, all that doubt had been removed. So after we got our first 3 podcast shows recorded, I said, I'm going to send Aaron a message. He doesn't know me. We had like 90 subscribers, maybe 90, and most of those 90 were people that Steve had from his channel, him telling them to go. And, there's those, right. We don't really care what you guys have going on. We're just subbing because Steve asked us to. So I sent Aaron a message through Facebook and I said, first, let me tell you what you did for me. We're starting this podcast. We don't have any subscribers, but if you're interested and want to come on the show, we would love to interview you. That'd be like, meeting my hero. It was 5 minutes and he messaged me back and said, tell me when and where, and I'm there. And the next week we were interviewing Arnold, which, I was like, it is kind of like meeting your superhero, because he's the guy that pulled all that wool, from your eyes and the blinders off, and led me to where I am here today. And at the end of that interview, we were talking about Kent Hovind, and he was talking about how much he just over the years Kent just grinded his gears. And so we then were like, okay, let's get you two talking. And that was it. After the Aaron Ron Kent Hovind debate, Non Sequitur was too powerful to try to pull off the rails. Now, no matter what, it was going in a direction, and it went there hard. And from wanting to do one show a week, that was our initial thing.
Right.
From February of last year till today, we do one a day, at least one a day, sometimes 2 or 3 a day. And it's just been a wild ride. I mean, that really kicked it off.
Oh yeah, I watched that live. I watched the Raw Hovind debate live because Savannah was at work, and I was like, I knew at some point I was gonna have to pick her up. I didn't know if it was gonna be during the debate or right after. But yeah, I got through it. Watched the whole thing, and then went and got her from work. Came back, and then she was like, she wanted to watch it, so we watched it. I watched it a second time. It was fantastic. You guys had like 700 plus people tuning in live to watch it. It was astounding.
It was, which was wild for a channel that we had at that, by that time that happened, we had like I think 200 subscribers. So as I'm watching, you can actually go back and watch this and watch my face as we kind of go along, because I'm looking at the count, like the count of people watching, and I'm like, what the fuck? We're you know, as the higher we go, I'm just I'm bewildered. And yeah, that was we didn't realize how big that would be, but it's one of those debates that you can go back and, like, no matter how many times you've seen it, you can watch it over and over again, because there's never been a debate where Kent Hovind was just grabbed by the collar, pushed up against the wall, and said, you know, we're not moving off this one question until you answer it.
Right.
And he wasn't used to that. So it was just it was crazy.
Right. Definitely. He couldn't be. Yeah. Because he forces people to do time debates.
Yep.
Because he purposefully has, as I'm sure you know, and as I'm sure most of my audience knows, this mode so that he can't be held to anything. He can, and you know, really that's part of why debates don't work a lot of times, is because, you know, one person can just run off and ignore the other person,
right,
and never get held to anything.
And that's why our and I think that's what made us kind of different from that point on, was like debates for me. When you have two people like Christopher Hitchens and, like, say, Frank Turek, those are two people who have like a esteemed reputation, so they're gonna go head to head and make sure that they hit each other's questions so the other can't be accused of not answering. What I was seeing within these sort of closer community debates is exactly what you just said. You'd have 10 minutes here, 10 minutes here, and each side would just talk and ramble, and they wouldn't be addressing what the other person said previously.
Right.
Well, that's why I wanted to do the format like a discussion. When you have people who are like having a conversation like me and you, and the moderators are there just to make sure that you don't, like, either go stray off the path or you know, talk over each other. You two are holding each other accountable the entire time. So if I'm asking you a question you're not answering, I'm going to ask you right there, well, he's not answering the question. Do you see that I'm asking him and he's not answering? And it kind of puts that pressure on you to answer. You're kind of like held to it, and it's working. So
I agree. Well, you know, except in Sylvester Williams' case, when you have a discussion, he still ignores the other side.
Oh man. Listen, this has been of all the weeks that we have done this show. This week has literally killed me. I slept the other day, seriously, for 16 hours. I was that exhausted. And it wasn't that I did anything like extra strenuous this week. It was from the stupid that I had to endure. Like the stupid that literally conked me out. Saturday, did you happen to catch any of Saturday's Flatter Day Night show?
Saturday?
Yeah, with Antonio Subrats and
no, I was at a concert on Saturday night.
Oh, good for you. Well, this guy literally said that Godless Engineer asked him about gravity. You know, do you believe in gravity?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, well, of course I believe in gravity, but it's not gravity. And Godless Engineer was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, it can't be gravity, because if you plant a tree like a redwood and the tree grows up from the ground, that's defying gravity. That was it for me.
Theory of dropity, isn't it?
Yeah, dropity. And that's an actual, like, that's not a term that I say that all the time, but that's not a term that I made up. There is a flat earther named allegedly Dave, who went on this late night TV show with his slides to present to the talk show host. This is like a big show over in, I believe it might be Canada, I think. And he literally had on the slide dropity, like it was an official word, dropity.
Dropity.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Oh Lord, that's
bizarre.
Aaron's first interaction with Mr. ID was on my channel.
I saw that too. That was really good.
It's good in a relative sense.
Well, good for me. You have to understand that coming from a weird show or a show that's just like, what the fuck? That's a good show. You know, that's a really good show.
Yeah, that video has like twice the number of views as my next highest video, which is just hilarious, I think.
People like we've had quite a few like, you know, what I think are distinguished guests, you know, PhDs, and recently we just had Lawrence Krauss on.
Oh yeah,
those videos do well, but they hail in comparison to you get some idiot that says that viruses aren't a thing, or that dinosaur bones were planted by a secret order long ago to make us think that the Earth is older than it actually is. You get somebody that says this sort of thing, the views blow up. People love a train wreck.
Right. Yeah, that is true. That is true. I mean, you guys got Nathaniel Jensen, you know, to talk to Herman Mays, and that was amazing. I got right out of class and started watching that one when that happened.
It people ask all the time, you know, how do you get these guys or these people on? And this is true, and it's the simplest answer. I literally just asked them, literally. Each one of them. There wasn't anything special that I did. You just have to be willing to send the email, I think, and word it such. I make sure that I word whenever I send an email out. I word it like I'm not really concerned if they do it or not. You know, it's just like, hey, here's this thing. Here's what I'm thinking. If you're interested, just let me know. You know, there's no kind of pressure. But I think people get you know, this is I don't want to be the type of person that thinks that I'm in any position to give out advice, but that's the one thing that I would say is that never count yourself out, that just because you know you don't think you're not getting the views that you think you should, or you don't have a high subscriber count, that doesn't matter. If you present an interesting subject and you do it confidently, they'll come. I mean, look, with Arn, I had 200 or had 90 subscribers. He had nearly 200,000.
Right. Yeah.
And you just gotta be willing to take that chance, I think, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. You reminded me about the viruses aren't real guy. Did he turned out to be a troll, didn't he?
No.
He was
he was a troll. He was trolling about the dinosaurs aren't real, because he also joined that show.
Yes, that's right. He did. I do remember that.
He also joined that show. The viruses thing, he's 100% about. On his channel, on his YouTube page, he has so many videos going into, like, they're just too detailed in order for him to be trolling about the viruses thing, because I mean, they don't make any sense, but he's thought about it way too much, and he's presenting too many different variables for him to just be, you know, messing around. The dinosaur fossil thing, he wanted to get on there with Trevor, was what it was.
For his own publicity.
Yeah,
that makes sense. That was also that talk with between Trevor and the Christians Against Dinosaurs. That was a very good talk.
Yeah. I don't think that even they believe that, though. I really don't. I don't think that her answers to me weren't convincing. Like, it seemed like she was just saying things to say them, like, for shock value. You know what I mean? Like, she didn't have any backing up. And, you know, that's the thing that you have to that's bad, that comes along with doing the kind of shows that we do. There's a time where I used to enjoy, like, reading my emails. Now when I wake up in the morning, I avoid my emails at all costs, because there's something dark and evil in there. The things that I hear, or you know, people suggest to me, or people send to me, like, have you seen this guy? There's literally a guy that I got the other day. This is not a joke. He's some kind of healing guru, right? And all he does is stares at you. And that's it. Like, he doesn't talk to you. He doesn't try to assess what's wrong with you. You pay him, and he stares at you through the camera for an indefinite amount of time, and you just literally look at each other. Yeah,
that's something, all right.
This is happening. People are paying him. That's the funny thing. People are paying him to do this. It's crazy. I wish if I had a time machine, sometimes I wonder if I would go back and not do YouTube, just for the things that I know now that I was in a safe little bubble beforehand, but you come in here and, you know, it's the floodgates open.
I agree. So yeah, I do agree with that. The depths of stupidity are truly endless.
Yeah. And as soon as somebody like, it seems like to me, as soon as somebody raises the bar where you're like, well, nobody can top that, immediately someone comes and tops it.
Yeah.
And at what point do we get to the stupid singularity? When is that coming?
That's true. Someone actually posted that comment on on the talk that I did on your channel the other day because this guy Sylvester, this is the lowest. Nope, it's someone else next week.
Yeah. Right now, though, that is true. Sylvester is the dumbest person that has been on. When he said bisexual amoeba.
Yeah.
Oh man, you can't get any better than that.
Because we have a PC in the chat right now. I just want to throw this gem out there for anyone who hasn't seen the talk. It's uploaded on my channel also. Of course, the link to the original is in the description. But he says at one point, evolution has nothing to do with genes.
Yep.
That's out there for everyone to see.
Hi, PZ. By the way.
So yeah, that was just. I think that Steve had to stop for a moment.
when we started that talk, in a really like what we started out talking about, which he brought it up, but it kind of derailed the entire conversation because he was suggesting that Darwin was racist because Darwin refers to savages, right? And he is attributing the savages that Darwin is talking about to African Americans, deeming him, racist, and anybody that goes along with it. Now, you did a really good job of pointing out that, okay, let's say that he was racist. What does that matter in terms of, evolution being true? And I tried to point out to him the people of North Sentinel Island, when that missionary that went there a couple months ago, he was shot by trying to come on the island and tell people about God. That's a savage tribe. Those are savages, and those are the type of savages that he was talking about. People who aren't, they don't go along with the customs that regular society is. And he just refused to listen to either one of those points. I mean, just like a brick wall.
Oh yeah, I agree. He's got the tropes, and it doesn't matter that he has no cultural context, no historical context for what Darwin's writing. Like I said in the chat, I don't think he actually has read Origin of Species. Right. It's because you look at what Darwin wrote. Darwin's relying on older source material. This was written in 1871, something like that. So this is very much steeped in the times.
Yep.
And so for him to look at it through this modern view of, well, this is what we mean today by race, this is what we mean, this is what I think he means by savages, was just complete detachment from the work itself.
I even read him a quote by Darwin and in a letter to his wife, talking about a situation with where he had he was speaking to a slave. He and the way that I think it was the way that he answered was a little bit louder because he couldn't hear him. And he said that when the gentleman jumped back, he had this like look of horror, like he was going to get hit. And that really affected him. Oh,
right.
You hear that?
Oh, what happened? I didn't hear anything.
I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Oh, that's better. Oh. So yeah, he was deeply against the concept of slavery, and the example that he used just wasn't what he was. It wasn't what he was going for. And the sad thing is, he walked away from that, like most people do in the discussions that we have on our channel. And this is what's most frustrating about doing this type of show, is that we don't just bring people on and have them talk to anyone so that it can, just for the hell of talking or just for the drama. We always try to pair people with somebody that's in the field, an expert, and that can speak on whatever conspiracy that they have or whatever disagreement that they have. And the frustrating thing is that so many times you have these people who are getting the chance to talk to these the accomplished PhDs in the field. They're in the middle of it, and they just stick their middle finger up to them and ask them, well, just because you have a piece of paper that hangs on the wall, that don't mean you know anything about it. Yes, it does. That's exactly what it means. They're an expert in it.
Yeah, I remember Aaron, you guys were all calling out Kent Hovind on not having any actual degrees, and I think you guys actually got through to him in the 30 plus years he's been doing this. I think you, Steve, and Aaron have finally gotten through to him because he actually walked it back and said, well, I don't put those on there. My production guy does.
Yeah.
That's the first time I have literally ever heard him say that.
He hung his poor production guy out to dry.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about Kent is he's and this is when we did that video, the last video that we did about him, where we played that tape of him. He has been peddling this shit so long that he lies just outright and says it as if it's the truth. And he says it as if people are going to accept that is what it is. Just like
right.
what you just said. I don't tell him to put the doctor out there. Bullshit. Yes, you do.
Right.
We had him saying that I never agreed to come on your channel. He was supposed to come on our channel 3 weeks ago to do a debate with Esteban. He didn't show the first night. We talked to him that night and made sure that we were confirmed for the next night. Next night comes around, he doesn't show. And so everybody's like going crazy because we have all these people waiting. So we went live and we were telling the story. And we actually got him on the phone. And he's like, I never agreed to come on your channel. I don't know what you're talking about. Dave, bless his heart, had recorded the entire call the day before. And while we have him on the phone, plays Kent Hovind talking to Steve and agreeing to, yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. We'll see you at 7:30. Kent Hovind fucking hung up at that. Yes. Yeah.
That's so perfect. Oh my god.
That's the final chapter in the Kent Hovind saga. But yeah, he tried, like, if we didn't have that recording, it would have been a, he said, she said thing with us. But he literally got caught red-handed and had nothing to say and hung up and didn't want to talk about it. So I mean, that just goes to show you what kind of person Kent Hovind is.
That is truly wonderful, and I think that is a fitting end to his chapter.
Yeah.
So of the talks that you guys have done, do you have a favorite? What are they?
When you say favorite, are you saying like favorite that I actually enjoyed listening to, or favorite that just blew my mind?
I mean, do you have one that you think is like, or was like the most intellectually fulfilling, and do you have one that was just like the one that blew your mind, like maybe crazy?
Yeah. It's hard to really pick one. Of course, I love every time Aaron's on there. I think that he and Aaron, not in like the debates, but when we have him come on to talk about like what he does and science stuff, he's great. I would have to say that probably Lawrence Krauss now would be just because it's the most recent, like, one that I remember just being like in awe of. The guy, like, the guy knows so much, and he's so, like, you can tell when he's talking about, like, he's so passionate about what he does.
Right.
And I knew not one iota of what he was saying the other night. I probably could follow two things that he was talking about, but I wanted to. A lot of times when that's the important thing. If you're able to get somebody that maybe isn't, I mean, I'm into like the cosmos and all that, but the physics side of it just doesn't really do much for me. I don't have, it's not that I hate it or whatever. It just doesn't tickle my fancy. But I wanted to know more about it that night, just based on the way that he was talking. And I think that's a hard thing to do. You either have people that are that they know the material, but they maybe don't have the best delivery, and so people tune them out because it's either boring or it's too much to follow. It just sounds too complicated. But very rarely do you get somebody that knows the material and can deliver it in a way where people are on the edge of their seat. And he's just that way. I think Neil deGrasse Tyson's another one like that. He has this wealth of knowledge, and he's able to portray it in a way that you want to learn about it. And so that was really cool to See, and plus, for me, I've watched in this community, Lawrence Krauss was a big part of it. So
Right.
being able to like have him on my show that we're doing is kind of surreal. It's humbling. So that'd probably be the best one I would say, like enlightening, or that I learned something. Now, as far as the biggest dumpster fire,
right,
that we've had, there's so many. There was, I would have to probably say, I'd have to say Dale and Gavin in Flat Earth Dumpster Fire. That's the name of the episode, Flat Earth Dumpster Fire. These two, they're both from Scotland, and Dale has the reputation of being, they call it shed rage, because he's got this like plywood shed. I mean, it's like it's no wider than like this, where I can stretch my arms out. It's a plywood shed. It's got a little furnace here, and it looks like garage doors on the other side, because you can see the reflection of the windows in a picture that he has hanging up back here. So it's like a little bunker, like a little Flat Earth shed bunker or whatever.
Okay.
And he just yells like he's roid raged out. He's this jacked Scott guy, but he's so angry. And Gavin, who is a person that they call themselves Beyond the Imaginary Curve, that's their channel name. And Gavin emailed me one day and said, we'd like to come on your channel and talk about the flat Earth. And I was like, okay, we can do that. And he said, now this is the build up to it. This is like we're working up to a crescendo here. He sent me this email and he said, bring the best of you, the best that you have on your side. And we are going to bring our best, and we'll see who has the right shape of the planet when it's all said and done. And so I said, okay, I'm going to get Red's Rhetoric, and I'm going to get Jim Panda, and it'll be those two. Well, as we got closer to the day, it got out that I was bringing on Reds and Jim Panda. And I don't know if they didn't think that like we knew Reds or whatever or something like that, but he sends me this email the day of. It's like 4 hours before we're going live. And he said, I hear you're bringing Reds. If that's the case, we're not coming. We're just going to cancel the show. And so I emailed him back. Now, here's a lot of people do this. This happens all the time. All the time, people will email me saying, well, I didn't know that you were going to pair me off with such and such. I'm not coming. And my response was the same then, and it's always the same. Okay, I don't care. We're still going live. And if you don't come, we're going to explain why you didn't come. And we're going to take your videos that you've put out, and we're going to prove you wrong either way. So you can either come and actually show up, and maybe it doesn't look so bad for you, or you can be a bitch and not show up. Right. I don't care either way.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
And he didn't respond. Well, I sent the link just like I normally would, and lo and behold, they both come into the room. So it's Gavin and Dale and Jim Panda and Reds and Steve, me and Steve. Now, I guess that that Dale and Steve have maybe had a run-in before, because Dale's just like seething in the camera. Now, we're not even live yet. We're all just like waiting to go live, but Dale's like seething. And Steve said something to Dave about like some other event that we had coming up, and Dale out of nowhere goes, "Fuck you, Steve McRae." And it just it took me off guard. I was like, what did he say? And Dale just flies into this rage about like Steve's a fucking wanker, and he's a good for nothing sack of shit, and just like just blow, like saying all this other kind of stuff. When the video comes on, if you watch the episode, he's literally talking. He's literally bitching Steve out as we go live. Like we come from the intro, and he's still like going at him. And it was just a train wreck. I mean, we didn't get anywhere. They both said that space didn't exist. They were going on about the vacuum and the pressure gradient, and it was just, we wound up kicking them both off. And we then brought in, we were like, okay, we have half of a show now. Anybody in the live chat want to come on? The dude from the moron from Awake Souls came on.
Okay.
He lasted 5 minutes before he was kicked off. And then Russian Vids came in after him. And in his opening statement said that the Challenger explosion was a hoax. So we kicked him off, and then we just shut down the entire stream. So in a matter of 45 minutes, 8 people were kicked off of the show.
That's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, it was great.
Steve says best dumpster fire ever.
Yeah, it was great.
That is pretty great. I remember you guys did the I don't watch a whole lot of Flat Earth ones. I remember part of the was Reds and Jeranism, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember a little bit of that one because that was one where Jeranism said he had no model.
Right. Yeah, he admitted it. Now this is the second time, if you think about it, this is the second time that Jeranism has had one of these public blunders. You know, he admits that Red's model is one that could actually comport to reality, and that he doesn't have a model. And then he had that snafu with the. Did you see the light thing that he did, where he was
on the little thing? Yeah,
he was doing an experiment, and when it lined up to where it would be if it was a round Earth, his response was, "Well, that's interesting." Now you tell me. Now you tell me, right? I'm you're a flat earther, right? And I'm Jeranism, and you're sub to my channel. You at first think that I know that I have a good idea about what the shape of the Earth is, and then you hear him in these instances where he has to admit to somebody that he doesn't have a model, and the other guy's model is better, and then you have the other instance where he himself proved that the Earth is round. How are you still subscribed to me? What are you still listening to me for?
Yeah, right. I think I've heard some people say that maybe a lot of the flat Earth community is doing this for like the lulz or to be edgy, and
that's what I think. That's what I think.
I mean, I think you're probably right. I think some people probably do believe that. I talked to a creationist, flat earther, 9/11 hoaxer on my channel with RJ, and I do think he does believe that, but I think for a lot of these people, it's to fight the status quo. It's about upending the establishment. It's really just about being set apart.
Exactly.
Anything else?
That's my theory. It's a persecution club. You have these people that feel like they've been lied to about one thing, and whether they believe in the flat Earth or not, they link up with this movement because it's the trendy thing now. It's the bad boy, the bad boy club. You're part of the flat Earth movement. And while they may have of course, I believe that the government lies about things. Absolutely.
Sure.
No one's trying to defend the government here, but time after time after time after time after time, I have done literally probably, I would say 80 plus flat Earth debates. Okay. I've sat in this chair more than 80 times, and I've listened to every argument that you could think of from it's not gravity, it's dropity. Planets are planets. They're lights in the sky. They get replaced. A guy that told me that in Africa. Okay, this is going to blow your mind too. This is going to his name's Edgewise. Okay, he believes this. He will take in his videos, Google Earth, and he will scour the planet. That's all he does. It's almost obsessive the way that he scours the continents, right? And here's his theory. He'll show you the continent of Africa, right? And there's this landmass called the Eye of the Sahara. It's an actual geographical anomaly on the continent of Africa. It looks like an eye, right? And there is a millions-year-old fossilized dragon that covers the top quarter of the continent of Africa. Like, he will outline it for you. It's what makes the mountains. They're not mountains. It's an actual dragon that has fossilized. Okay.
All right.
So we bring him on and we're talking to him about this fossilized dragon. And I want to get to that dragon had a purpose, right? And if he's the fourth the size of the continent, the dragon could have wandered around the earth not too far, because that's a big dragon, right?
Right.
So I asked him, I said, what was this dragon doing? What was his purpose? What was he eating? Where was he doing his day-to-day thing? Now, and what follows is literally you couldn't a science fiction writer could not write this shit. Okay, he believes that in the beginning, the continents were stacked on top of each other. In his words, like a hamburger, stacked like this. The dragon's reason for existence was sent down here to unstack the continents and place them where they are, like you see today. And once he was done with his mission, he just fell over on Africa, and there he is today. But the interesting thing is that the eye of the Sahara that he points out, he'll show you that it's the outline of a fish. The dragon was eating a fish when it died, and the fish fossilized. The fish is the size of the lower half of the United States. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And as I'm telling you this, I'm having I'm having an internal dialogue with myself where I'm like, you're literally saying this stuff out loud, Kyle. You literally are saying this to out loud to people. What wrong turns did you take in life?
Right.
What led you to this point in your life where you're talking about fossilized dragons that are the size of continents that unstacked the continent hamburger? That's my life. That's my life.
That is indeed your life. That's great. That is great. Yeah, that. I mean, you titled the video the other day that like the night that broke Kyle. I'm surprised there haven't been nights or maybe whole weeks that broke Kyle.
I've gotten close. I try, like, I genuinely people, the people that come away from the show with a really bad impression, which I understand. I'm very practical. I don't take it personally. I have what I think is a good relationship with most of the people that come on the show, and even the ones that I don't, I'm always willing to have them back on. I try to be fair and give them their time to talk. Like, I don't railroad them, but to me, it's important that I remain as calm as possible so that I'm able to draw a distinction between the craziness that they're putting out there, putting out into the world. And so that people can look and say, okay, well, in the face of this amount of crazy, there is you have to be calm and cool and collected so that he can get his ideas out. And it doesn't look like I'm trying to step on him or trying to railroad him, so that you have these two sides out there and people who might be on the fence of, which I don't know who can be on the fence about fossilized dragons. And I don't know who, but if that person does exist, I want them to see that one side has a clearer, more well-defined, more tendency to be true side than the other. And that's important. And I think that the only way to do that is if you take yourself out of it and your ego out of it, and you let them talk, and you make sure that you give them, or you try to give them the same amount of time as you did, the side that you agree with.
The right side.
Yeah, but you're never going to please. When somebody walks away from one of these discussions, obviously they're going to look bad to some degree, depending on what you're talking about. And anytime that happens, you get defensive. You start to want to blame, the show and that it wasn't fair. But I'm very proud of the way that the show's handled, and I think that for the most part, we do a good job of being fair. And I've come very close to losing my shit. It happened with Wonton. I lost my shit. I lost my shit with Misha Popov. And then this week I lost my shit with Sylvester. I lost my shit with Antonio Subarats, and I lost my shit with Ocean and Pragmatic Culture when they were talking about, when they were comparing the Trinity to the blanket. That just melted my mind out of my ear. Melted my mind out of my ear. I couldn't do it. Right.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. It that does happen. You're right. It's not going to please everyone. Like I do remember Hovind and his followers were, whining about his talk with Arn. They're like, oh, Arn, stepped on him, whatever, which I don't think he did. I think, I really do think Arn held his feet to the fire. Yeah. And he continued to do that.
That's a one-off case. Arn in that discussion, like, if you take Kent Hovind, right? You can do this. Literally anybody can do this. Take two Kent Hovind debates, any two, pre him going to prison, post him going to prison. Doesn't matter. Just pick two. Take the Kent Hovind parts out of each one of them, no matter who the opponent is. Take the Kent Hovind speaking parts out and flip them on the videos. Just insert audio from A into B and from B into A, and both debates will still make sense to you.
Right.
Because he has a script that he sticks to, and he does this script like a used car salesman. I mean, and it's very polished. He knows when to deliver those cheesy dad jokes and when to, make that connection with it. It's very calculated what he's doing.
Right.
And Aaron went in and just completely wrecked his script. And, I wasn't going to step on in the middle of that. Kent deserved to have his foundation shook, and it still shook, because to this day, he will not engage Aaron face to face. Like, they're having to do. Kent promised a second part. Even on the show, like the first one said, "Yeah, we'll do a second one." Completely went back on that, and the reason he did that is because he knew that he could never engage Aaron, because Aaron wasn't going to let him sidestep like all the other people that he debates, and that stood for something to me. I'm very proud of that moment. He needed to have that kind of wake up call.
Oh yeah. I would also say RJ Downer did something similar, even though they had a debate. You're right. Kent Hovind has his script. He goes through it. RJ threw him off, pointed out these facts to him. Hovind even forgot to evangelize at the end. He was that
RJ is a walking encyclopedia. I mean, the way that he's able to just spit that, those facts and numbers and stuff like that, it's impressive. I really like what he does. Kent Hovind, interestingly enough, is having a debate tonight with Cy Gart on modern day debate. So the two former foes will actually be debating at the same time. I want to message modern day debate and be like, let's pipe each other's feeds into each other, so Aaron, and so that Kent can look up and see Aaron there in the window.
Right. Yeah. Someone or a few people in the live chat have pointed out the talk with Lou Jack that Aaron did.
Yeah.
And he rage quit on that one.
Yeah, well, he didn't rage quit.
He quit because he had nothing, or there was nothing to add to the discussion, really.
Yeah, well, Aaron had a something that he was working on too. It was there was a schedule issue. Like, at first we were going to reschedule, but Aaron was like, "No, I'll just put this on the back burner." So in Aaron's mind, he had this other thing that he was trying to get done too. Right. He was going to be courteous and come and do the debate and then go and do that. But after he heard what Lou Jack was saying, I think his mind rationed. I'm going to go focus on what what's actually going to do some sort of benefit.
Right.
Aaron had a debate with Jason King, who Jason King has the shortest record on the show for surviving in a debate. Aaron literally said nothing, and for Aaron, that's a rare occurrence. Aaron literally said nothing and won that debate because Jason King was booted within 5 minutes of the show starting.
Jesus,
he was drunk. He was that drunk. He was so drunk he couldn't put words together. I mean, it was belligerent. So we have really I feel bad because as important as Aaron is, to me and my story, I haven't really rewarded him well with the best people to kind of engage.
I think you guys have done. I mean, that's what he does. That's what he's done for like a decade.
Yeah,
he's had these conversations.
Tonight's going to be good. Tonight he's going up against I call him Sassy Hovind. He's Kent Hovind, but with a lot of sass. I mean, this guy is. Yeah, he's he thinks that we walked with dinosaurs. I mean, one of those types. So,
yeah,
It's gonna it's gonna be one of those nights. I can feel it.
Well, it's really funny because of okay, I'll ask him that in a second, Pickle. I've actually had to deal with recently, well, of my own volition, a humans live with dinosaur person, but he's not a. I don't think he's a creationist. I think he's a conspiracy theorist who piggybacks off of creationist stuff.
Sure.
But what was really crazy is that this is very low echelon creationism, but this same stuff has made it into the Answers in Genesis books.
Mm-hmm.
The books that they put out, which is really sad because like they take like the crocoduck argument and have put it in their book, but not just they haven't just put it in there. They had Georgia Purdom, who's a geneticist. It was in her chapter with Bodie Hodge.
It's a to me the reason I think that's done is because in their mind it's almost like the Machiavellian philosophy. The end justifies the means. No matter what you have to do, no matter if you know it's not true, if it's a lie, you put it out there. If it saves life, if it saves souls, if it keeps people from thinking that the earth is billions of years old, therefore disproving what the Bible says about God, then it's okay.
Right.
Like, they're able to kind of push their principles aside because in the grand scheme of things, they're taking this person from an eternity in hell and bringing them to heaven. So if they have to lie or, fudge the truth or, throw whatever conspiracy theory at the wall to see what sticks, they're willing to do it. And there's just there's no other explanation for that. I mean, we know that somebody who like Nathaniel Jensen has a degree from Harvard University.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the things that he espouses in that book, at least to me, I don't think that you can honestly believe that if you've gone through this many years of school at a school that is the top echelon, you know what I mean? Like, you don't get any better than that. You can't walk away from the things that you've seen, the labs that you've done, the time that you've put in those labs. You cannot come away with those and still hold on to a creationist view unless you purposely do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, unless you purposely put that to the side, you can't do that, I don't think. So, I mean, to me, that just points to one thing, and that's just intellectual dishonesty about certain aspects.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. I think the same is true of Georgia Purdom, of Jason Lyle, of Andrew Snelling. I think all of their top PhD people, I think probably Bodie Hodge is just a useful idiot, but Ken Ham, he might understand evolution. He might. I know he took he got a degree in ecology or something like that. So maybe him, but I do agree with that assessment. I think for the most part that they, and I kind of like what John Perry has said. Like, they have this narrative, the Bible, and that has to be true. They honestly do believe that the Bible is true.
Correct.
And like you said, they have to fudge the data because this is more important. Because the Bible is more important than the science. Saving souls is the most important thing.
What's always baffled me. You look at somebody like Cy Gart. The guy has an amazingly accomplished career. He's a devout Christian. Probably one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. That's just as an aside.
Yeah.
But he will tell you that you cannot deny the proof for evolution. I mean, you just can't. And he has not let that impact his faith. And for some reason, you have okay, Jackson, if you are a Christian, right, and you believe that the Bible is 100% true, like 100%, it is literally everything that happened in that book is exactly what happened. Okay, they're going to spend all of their time battling facts and evidence and everything that tries to prove that wrong. But what they don't do is they don't take I feel like if they just took a second and stopped and asked questions about their own book, like, here's to me the killer, and it kills it before the book even starts. Okay. Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, there's a tree that they can't eat of the fruit of this tree. Right.
Right.
Now, the earth is a big place. It's a huge place. God put the one tree that they can't eat out of in the same garden that he put the two people that he loved, his
The
creation.
only two people on Earth.
Yeah, he put the tree right there. Now, you have to ask yourself a question. Why did he do that? Did he know? Does God know everything? Of course God knows everything. So did he know they were going to eat of that tree? So if he knew they were going to eat of that tree, why didn't he put the tree on the other side of the planet where they could never get it?
Right.
No, he put it there on purpose. He put it there knowing that they were going to eat of this tree and cause all of this other kind of stuff. Now, could he have told Jesus, you know what? Sin is sin. It's a bad thing. I don't want to put you on a cross. I don't want them to beat you. I don't want them to crucify you. Let's just say that it's forgiven because I'm God. I can do that.
Right.
He doesn't do that. Why?
Right.
So, I mean, if they took a step back and they asked questions about what they claim is that like the literal truth of that book, I think they would walk away with a different outlook on it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I agree. We have a question from the audience from Piggle who says, tell us about the roast of Kent Hovind.
This was a answer to him not coming on to do the second. We had set a day for the Aaron and Kent rematch, and up until about a week before, Kent was saying, yep, he's still down. He's still going to be there. And then a week before, just no, I'm not interested. He interrupted me. He interrupted me 226 times. Someone counted. He got such and such amount of times, and I got whatever. So he pulled that card, which I think at our core we knew that was going to happen anyway. Sure. So there are so many people in this community that have done videos on Kent Hovind, have had debates with Kent Hovind, don't like Kent Hovind. Logic, that was one of Logic's most infamous series was with him on Kent Hovind. So I was thinking, okay, if he won't come here, let's just roast him. Let's have various creators who have had run-ins with him either do a video on him, or some people sent in songs, some people did skits. It was really fun, and we had everybody that could actually come on the show and do it just like they do roast on Comedy Central. We would introduce somebody, they would come on, roast Kent Hovind and Kent Ham, and it was a really fun time. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was really good. I enjoyed being part of the questions for theists.
Yeah. We have a really good community. Like, to me, the atheist, faithless community that we're all part of. We're all friends and talk and behind the scenes and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And to me, I always want to utilize that as much as possible, because I think that the people who are in this community are they're so creative. They have so much to offer. They all of you guys are bright, and you have things to say that people should hear, I think. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to include you guys and to meet you guys that way. That's a great way that we've been able to meet people, and it's just been a lot of fun. And I think that the more that we're all able to get our voices out there, the better.
I agree. Yeah, I think that what you guys have been a part of has been a sort of redoing of the skeptic community. Because if you look at because when YouTube atheism kind of started, you had a bunch of channels, most of whom are gone now. I think Aaron, Bionic Dance, and a few others are, from way back then. But a lot of people got mired in political stuff, the whole feminist, anti-feminist thing, and it got really toxic. It got, not a great place to be a part of. And for a while I was really looking for where are the channels who are still talking about debunking, creationism and all that stuff. Yeah. Whatever after that. And so it's really good to see how we have okay, here are these people who are all really good content creators, like Logic, although he's also another really one from way back then. Logic and Holy Kool-Aid and Apologia and Hugo and Jake. And it's really good to see that these guys are the main people
For some reason it started to go in a direction of where the controversy was.
Right.
And it went to a dark place in some instances. You had people who were talking about issues that were just they're dark. I don't know why it went that direction, but somewhere along the lines, people forgot for a little bit about the whole religion angle. You know, I guess you do it so much that you just you're looking for a new kind of topic to talk about, and that's understandable. The beauty about this show is that the non sequitur is the perfect name for what we do, because literally we'll have a flat earther. The next day you have Lawrence Krauss. The next day you have Jesse Lee Peterson. Right. It doesn't follow, and so you can never get bored with. You know, we've kind of set ourselves up to where we don't have to worry about the boredom aspect of it, but underlining all of that is always the undertones of religion, because religion, whether people can see it or not, and I hope they can when they go back and they watch these episodes, religion permeates to some degree all of these strange beliefs. Yeah. The beliefs may be different. You may have a flat earther, you may have the viruses, you may have the
Jesse Lee Peterson,
you may have the dinosaurs, but to some degree it's all pushed by religion. It's all pushed by the fact that God says that we got here one way. Science says we got here another way. And so I think that's important not to forget that most of the things that are harmful in terms of like conspiracy theories are driven to some degree by undertones of religion. And you have to be able to not fight against that, but, you know, kind of be able to refute a lot of the things that they put out there, because to them, they're putting out science. They're putting out cutting edge, scientifically studied thing. And it's, you know, we know it's bullshit, but you have to be able to tell them it's bullshit tactfully, so that, you know, it's not just one guy saying, well, that's, you know, you're full of shit on this, but this is why you're full of shit.
Right.
And whether you accept that or not, that's on you. Most of them don't, though. Most of them walk away more entrenched than they came.
Well, I mean, you know, and I'm sure you know, at the end of the day, it's about the viewers. It's about the people, like, as you said earlier, the fence sitters who are coming, who are, you know, saying, oh, maybe I've heard there are some merits to both evolution and creationism. And then they come see Aaron Ross spank Kent Hovind. They're like, oh, no, there aren't any upsides to creationism.
Yeah. Well, one thing is for sure, our comment section is a lovely place, because we have so many people that hate us. I mean, just hate us. I get a lot of hate comments, but I will put this one out there because I think it was genius. The best hate comment that I've ever gotten was a guy said, I hate your channel so much, I'm subscribing just so I can unsubscribe.
That is pretty great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You can't hate somebody like that.
Subscribing just so you can unsubscribe.
Yeah, genius.
Oh, goodness. Well, is there? Oh, we've been just over an hour now. So, is there anything else that you want to throw out there before we sign off?
If I blink 3 times very quickly, that means to get me out of any show that I'm doing. Just so that we know, get 911 ready, because I can feel one of these days it's just gonna. No. Tonight we have Aaron Ra and Dr. Grady McGurty. Grady McGurtry, who is a young Earth creationist PhD. Wednesday we have Cult of Dusty, and then on Thursday we're having a slavery debate, which I'm petrified about.
Yeah, that is going to be something.
Yeah, I there's just something that feels wrong about saying, like, when he told me the topic there, the proposition they would put out there, that slavery was a net positive for African Americans.
Who put that out there?
JF. The French guy, the French neuroscientist, PhD.
Okay.
And he's actually having a conversation with a guy named Psychopath Atheist, who is a an African American.
Okay.
But it just like it stings. Like, to be honest with you, like when I read that, when I read that, it stung. Like I felt that proposition, and so I can only imagine what it's going to be like actually hearing some of the examples that are going to be put forth for a positive. But
that's true.
So that's what we've got coming up, but never the nothing controversial, nothing that nothing that's going to be seen as anything other than everybody singing Kumbaya and getting along, just like every day.
Exactly. Well, I want to thank you for coming on very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone in the audience, for watching. And so I don't really schedule a lot of things. So bye, everybody.